Hey guys, thanks for tuning in to another video on ForgottenWeapons.com. I'm Ian McCullum, and I am very excited today to announce the launch on Kickstarter of my second book, Headstamp Publishing's third book, entitled Pistols of the Warlords, Chinese Domestic Handguns 1911 to 1949. So, I have a link to the Kickstarter campaign down in the description text. You should definitely go check it out and pick up a copy if this is a subject that you're interested in. And I think it is a fantastically interesting subject. I've been really curious and interested in Chinese domestic pistols, aka Chinese mystery pistols, ever since I first found out about them 5 or 6 or 7 years ago now. So there's very little documented information about these. These are guns that came out of the Chinese Warlord Era and the Chinese Civil War. This was an incredibly complex and confusing period in Chinese history with dozens upon dozens of different warlords with their own armies, some huge armies. Some of these armies were in excess of 100,000 men, and some small armies. These were warlords who had mixing, flowing allegiances. There would be, states would align themselves for a period of time, and then one general would betray another, and the alliances would split apart. There were as many instances of warlords being deposed by defeat in battle as being deposed by treachery and their armies abandoning them to go join another warlord. It's a crazy period in history. And these warlords were getting arms from a variety of places. They were importing some from the West, often through Japan, actually, but they were also manufacturing a great deal of weaponry domestically within China. There were a bunch of large Western-style arsenals that produced primarily rifles and machine guns, but also made small batches of pistols. And then there were a lot of smaller sort of regional arsenals, repair depots, and everything down to the level of a basically traveling blacksmith machinist, all of whom were capable of making handguns one at a time, and did. And so we have this plethora of Chinese manufactured pistols that are all made one at a time. And so no two examples are identical. We have a pair in the book that are of the same basic type and have consecutive serial numbers, and even those are not actually identical. They differ in substantial little details. So there are really no documented records on these pistols that one can access. I've talked to people in China. I've tried to search information in China, and they're like nothing exists. Probably what little recorded information there was destroyed in the 1950s after the end of the Chinese Civil War. However, I was able to get access to a very substantial collection of these pistols. They'd been accumulated over decades of work. And we were able to take those guns and use them to study the different patterns, the different models, types, the different styles of mechanical system, the different styles of markings, and use that to categorize the pistols in a way that you just can't do if you're only looking at 1 or 2 or even a dozen at a time. I've been able to reference a number of other international collections and confirm that, yeah, the categories of pistol that I've been able to define cover essentially everything that's out there. As far as I can tell, they cover everything that was manufactured in China during this period. So the book is divided into 4 primary chapters, and that is one on the totally unique Chinese designs, which are my favorite. And we also have chapters on copies of the C96 Mauser, which was perhaps the most popular pistol in China at the time, copies of the FN model of 1900, which is an easy runner-up as second most popular pistol in China at the time. And by the way, the beginning of the book has a bunch of contextual information to explain things like why were they using C96s and FN 1900s? Why those 2 pistols specifically? And who were the people who were using these pistols? And the basic history of the Chinese Warlord Era and Civil War. Anyway, the 4th chapter then, lest I get too far ahead of myself, 4th chapter is copies of other European and American pistols. Because while the majority are the C96 and the 1900, there was a variety of everything that was imported into China, and anything that got in was copied. In fact, what's really interesting is we even have an example of an actual arsenal-produced, serial production, interchangeable part, Chinese-designed pistol, and also a small-scale Chinese-made knockoff of that Chinese-designed pistol. Really cool stuff. So, working with James Rupley, whose work you may recognize either from Chassepot de Famas, my first book, which he photographed, or from any of the Vickers guidebooks. He does all the photography for those. He is a tremendously talented photographer. We have assembled these guns into what is a hybrid of a reference book and a coffee table catalog book. There isn't enough factual, like specific detailed data on these pistols to make a proper reference book. But what we can do is show you literally hundreds of different examples so that you can see what the range is. I hope that publication of this will bring some more interest in these pistols and more research, and perhaps if there is some archival data still out there, maybe someone will be able to dig it up, because I would love to know where and exactly when these different types of Chinese domestic designs were made and who they were made for. Right now, most of that data remains a mystery. At any rate, the book came out just over 500 pages, hundreds of pistols, beautiful high-resolution photography. Most of these pistols are actually presented at larger-than-life scale. It's really cool to look at. We have, as I said, obviously at the beginning here, a Kickstarter campaign to fund publication of the book, and there are a bunch of cool stretch goals that we've built into the Kickstarter campaign, so that if you guys are excited and interested in the book, there are a number of extra sections of detail and contextual history that I can go ahead and write and add into the book, assuming there's interest in it. So there are several different versions of the book. My favorite is that we actually went and made a Chinese mystery pistol cover of the book. This is a serious study of these pistols, and the standard retail cover is suitably artistic and beautiful and serious. But that doesn't mean we can't have a little bit of fun with it, and so we made the mystery pistol version, which was a tremendous amount of fun. Hopefully you guys enjoy it as well. That is something that we're offering as an exclusive Kickstarter-only option. Frankly, I don't really want that style of the book to show up in an academic reference library anywhere, but it was so much fun to make, and the idea was so cool that we figured a lot of you guys would probably appreciate having that sort of style of a book on this sort of style of pistol. So, in addition to that, we also have a number of small goodies. We have bookmarks, we have ex libris labels, we have a fun Chinese style poster to commemorate the book, and we are also reprinting a monograph, about a 50-page monograph written in the mid-90s by Dolph Goldsmith called Arming the Dragon, and that is a history of Chinese Warlord Era Mauser rifles, really a perfect companion piece to this pistol book. Well, Dolph wrote that back in the mid-90s, and it was basically a mimeographed, spiral-bound document at the time. And I don't know what the total printing was, but it was not very many, and that thing is basically impossible to find today, but it remains a really important source of information on the Mauser rifles that were made in China during this period. And so we talked to Dolph, and we got his permission to go ahead and reprint that monograph. So that's available as an add-on to any of the pledges that you might want to make in the Pistols of the Warlords Kickstarter. So tons of cool stuff, lots of stretch goals, lots of exciting things. Definitely take a look at the Kickstarter. I hope you're interested in this. Obviously, I find these fascinating. We'll have a variety of videos in the coming month on specific types of Chinese pistols that you'll see in the book. So enjoy. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you enjoy taking a look at the Kickstarter, ordering a copy of the book. I'm really excited to get it printed and to get it into people's hands, and to spur some more non-speculative interest in these pistols, because up until now there's literally nothing written. Like, there are a few paragraphs in a few other books that tangentially reference these pistols, but there's no serious documentation of them, and I'm very happy to be able to change that. Thanks.